The International 6 Days Trial in the German Federal Republic. Picturesque Neunkirchen in the Siegerland Valley in the German Federal Republic, the venue of the 54th International 6 Days Trial in 1979. The center of the event was in the Stegskopf military training area. A nice touch. The main streets were called after famous riders. The whole place was, as usual, a veritable beehive of activity, all the teams working and worrying and planning. The parking area suggested a Grand Prix racing event. Here too, everything centered around the favorites. The Italian World Trophy team, for the first time with two makes, KTM and SWM. The British team on KTMs too, but shod with Czechoslovak Barum tyres. That was one of the many achievements of Mertakov, the Czechoslovak Foreign Trade Corporation, that gave powerful backing to the entire Czechoslovak contingent. After all, success in an important sporting event usually means success in business. The International 6 Days Trial is more than just a short contest in the European Championship. It is 6 days of a grueling test of the quality of the bikes, the experience of the old hands, and the enthusiasm of the newcomers. The opening ceremony at the Leimbach Stadium at Siegen made it clear that the organizers had got their inspiration from the 6 days trial at Považská Bystrica, Czechoslovakia. The opening had the dignity of an Olympic ceremony and did not lack a few brilliant ideas that came, quite obviously, from keen motorcycling fans. The organizers had prepared the whole event with full responsibility and typical thoroughness. Everything went with clockwork precision. Nothing was forgotten. The Czechoslovaks, with the World Trophy, won in Sweden the year before. The leaders of the contingent, the brain and control center of the entire Czechoslovak team. They are followed by the riders, this time without the experienced Stodulka and Poshik, who have been replaced by Pokorny and Cesar owing to injury. The newcomers, all young men, are expected to provide the answer to the problem of the generation exchange. The men are the heart of the contingent, a heart with a sound pulse and a lot of courage and determination. The mechanics, engineers and others in the support crew, the hard-working hands without whose skill the riders could hardly manage to stay at the top. All of them forming one body, one organism in which everything must be well geared and function smoothly to produce a good performance. The Italians, the winners of the Silver Vase the previous year. For years they had been longing to win the World Trophy. The last time they managed it was in 1931. It's now or never was the spirit with which they came to Siegen. The home team, the German Federal Republic, they will be riding at home with far superior numbers, the prerogative of the organizing country, and they have worked hard to win too. In short, 386 riders from 18 countries in Europe and overseas. For 6 days, the World Trophy would now be in the safekeeping of the organizers. The program that followed was ingenious and varied, and culminated in an acrobatic show by a team from Hamburg. The team was headed by Walter Auchtun, a famous rider of the 1950s, member of the West German team that won the World Trophy at Spindleruvlin, Czechoslovakia, in 1957. All in all, everyone seemed to be happy and in high spirits before the first day of the contest. The morning of the 10th of September 1979, On the starting line, two of the home favourites, Schmieder and Howe, long-established World Trophy teamsters. The Belgian Joel Roberts was also present at the start. So far, everything was going smoothly, the riders sizing up each other and each other's machines. Number 55, Chundalik of Czechoslovakia on a JAWA. Number 54, Gritti, one of the most experienced of the Italians. The men have a mere 10 minutes to check their machines before the start. Everything seems to be all right, and everyone hopes that it won't be his machine that will start sulking at the start. Svetoslav Mashita of Czechoslovakia, for the first time in the 750 class, something he has not been used to. Jaroslav Rataj, the manager of the Czechoslovak Silver Vase team. Crosset of Belgium with a somewhat recalcitrant KTM. Andrioletti of the Italian World Trophy team. What's in store for the riders? In short, 1,540 kilometers cross-country, plus speed tests, acceleration tests, and a special cross-country test to end with. The very first day showed that the organisers had chosen a medium difficulty course, but tough nonetheless. It was fairly varied, with a lot of sharp rises, surprising muddy sections, fords and streams. The military training ground provided the organisers with some pretty uncommon features. This tree really took some hard knocks. Pretty well every other rider hit it. Here the lack of skill of many of the riders was painfully obvious. The 6 days trial is a contest for true masters of the handlebars. But even the weaker men have the right to compete and to try their luck in competition with the best men. And that is the exciting thing about it. There were few mountainous bits, and even the tough sections were manageable. It was obvious at first sight that the course had been chosen by experienced experts. But even here, some of the riders had to lend their engines a hand. Here, Sendrovich of Poland with his World Trophy SWM. Others couldn't help showing off a bit. The unlucky ones had to do a skilled mechanic's job. For instance, Grafstra of Holland, who had to cope with a broken chain on his SWM, and that requires strength, skill, and good nerves. Most of the favourite teams were made up of men for whom this sort of thing is child's play. Others scraped through with bruised fingers and the vision of penalty points incurred in the next time control. This is something the riders dislike intensely. Water, wherever it comes from, stream or cloud, ground or sky, is always a depressing prospect. Water is the main enemy of the sensitive mechanism of a motorbike. Luckily, there was no rain, and the stream did not get out of hand. Otherwise, it would have had to be crossed by the bridge. But the spot was well chosen, just in case. Milan Kremel of the Povazhska Engineering Works team, Czechoslovakia, an impressive performance. Many a rider would not trust the others, trying to find a path of his own, only to return humbly to the beaten track. Grisse of the West German trophy team was consistently excellent. Things were a bit tougher at the acceleration test. Some riders were simply unable to start their machines smoothly, on the verge of the rear wheel slipping, and to make full use of the engine speed in all gears. Here, a lot could be won, and even more lost. 1 second meant 1 point. The more points, the lower did the competitor sink in the overall tables. Cesar of Czechoslovakia was among the best in the 175 class. In the silver vase team, he had the fewest penalty points. There was always time for a minor repair, a bite and a drink before the time control. True, very little time, but even that was eagerly grasped. The new rules of the ISDE allow the riders to exchange all components not specially marked, quite a change compared with the old rules. There had been some fears, but in the end it became obvious that the rules simply legalized what had previously been done surreptitiously. Receiving the components and working on the bike is allowed only in the working area before the time control and, obviously, without outside assistance. The sporting value of the trial was not affected in the least. For the Czechoslovaks and their JAWAs, things were easy in this respect. All they had to do was clean their machines, a bit of lubrication here and some routine maintenance there, and that, of course, is a balm to the nerves. Time, time, time. To the minute, every rider must have his time card stamped. There's a tolerance of a mere 3 minutes, and then it is 60 penalty points for every minute. Even in the toughest sections, the Czechoslovaks were doing very well. Emil Trundelik on a Works JAWA 175. Gianpiero Findana on an Ancelotti. Without any problems. Kirkland of Great Britain, Suzuki 175. Smith of the United States, Suzuki 250. The true value of a reliable, high-performance machine and a supremely skilled rider was convincingly demonstrated here. Precisely what the Czechoslovaks relied on too, and very wisely, as the results show. Although in the World Trophy they had to do with the third place, trailing behind the excellent Italians and the home team, in the silver bars they were still more or less holding their own against their greatest rivals from the German Democratic Republic. Jeff Hill of the United States on a KTM. Jose Pudel of Spain, Bultaco. Trevor Hay, Great Britain, KTM. Sviatoslav Mashita, Czechoslovakia, JAWA. The other favourites were not finding life easy either. Heiner Büse of the West German World Trophy team really had to grit his teeth when he changed the broken starter shaft on his Maiko 750. The Czechoslovaks concentrated on preventive maintenance and changing tyres. In short, they had almost nothing to do. And yet it was all nerves in the two Czechoslovak teams. The challenge of the competitors was truly formidable. The rivals had learned their lessons in the past years. But the Czechoslovaks did not crack up. They knew they could rely on their machines, the experienced support crew, and the pacemakers, all former teammates. And so before the end of the trial, they were able to attack. The final speed test. The riders must cover the prescribed number of laps in the shortest time possible. The Czechoslovak management turns into a computer. Joseph Kauler on his 500cc JAWA, the last rider in the Czechoslovak Silver Vase team. Before the speed test, they were trailing some 56 points behind the German Democratic Republic. But then Schützler on his 350 MZ literally struggled home with a loss of 113 points. Now, Czechoslovakia were 50 points ahead. Kauler's job at this point was not to fall behind the best men in his class. He had some formidable rivals to cope with. Curte of the German Democratic Republic, Croce and Andreini of Italy, and some of the Americans too. That was why Stanslock of the World Trophy team had to do some pretty tactical riding. He was keeping an eye on the Italians and trying to slow them down to make Kauler's time loss as low as possible. Endless moments of suspense. Everything was clear. The Czechoslovaks on Czechoslovak-made JAWA bikes had won the Silver Vase, a well-deserved reward for some excellent teamwork. And then came the prize-giving ceremony. The World Trophy was won, and deservedly so, by the Italians. It is going to be quite a job to wrest it out of their hands, and there will be a scramble of teams at the 55th ISDE in France trying to do just that. The Silver Vase went to Czechoslovakia. Joseph Kauler, Jaroslav Kmošťák, Zdeněk Runkas, Jiří Císař, and the manager Jaroslav Rataj. Another success for the riders, and another achievement for JAWA, the great motorbike from Czechoslovakia.